All right. So, ladies and gentlemen of Redback BJJ, welcome to lesson 9 of virtual BJJ with me. What we are going to do tonight, I call it the 3 R's. We're going to recap, we're going to revise, and we're going to reflect on the previous 8 lessons that we have been through. And really, like every lesson, I kind of do it for myself, but hopefully you guys will get a lot of benefit out of it as well. It's been a long journey. So this is the 9th BJJ online lesson. I've kept extensive notes on what we've covered and the detail that we went into all of them. You know, before we started this, I don't think anyone was vaccinated. Now, vast majority of people are vaccinated and the world has changed. It looks like we're starting to come out of lockdown, but hopefully this is a nice primer to load you into that barrel and fire you back into training again in person so that you're not gone backwards. Maybe you've maintained, or maybe you're a little bit better from when we last started. That sounds impossible. Let's see how we go. So what I want to do tonight is look at the previous 8 lessons, okay? And what I want to do firstly is recap. I want to have a look at what we discussed over the last few months. All right, I want to get into some of the details. So that's going to be the revision part of it. So look at some of the specific key details and concepts that we also looked at during each week. But most importantly, what I want to do for each week is reflect. And I want to take out the goodness that we, and I mean we, I brought it to the table, but in going backwards and forwards with Trav and Greg and Dane and everyone else who's kind of been listening in, reflect on some of the goodness that we can take away from this. Because at the end of it, what I've got is essentially I've got a laundry list or a shopping list of things that I'm taking back into the dojo, things I'm taking back onto the mat. So I'm not going back and just going, oh, I'm just glad to be here. I've got a mission written down now, and my mission is really much based around the 8 lessons that we did. So hopefully you guys will get something similar out of it as well. Okay, so hopefully you can see on your screen. And what did we do? Well, at the start of August in lockdown, we did lesson 1, and that was open guard. You may or may not remember. Specifically, we zoomed in and focused on the De La Riva and the X guard. All right. And what we kind of discussed, if you remember, was that this De La Riva, this X guard, is really an open guard game. And the De La Riva and the X guard are just, you know, a chip off the iceberg of all these different open guard games that there are. And sort of what we got led to was, you know, what this open guard games gives you is it gives you an option. And the simple option that we used was that if you have your opponent in closed guard and they stand up to break your legs, well, you are being offensive in that you are opening your legs first and then establishing a De La Riva or establishing an X guard. As such, you're not waiting for your opponent to act before you react. You are taking the advantage to your opponent and acting before they can. And you're almost getting a better guard or at least the same type of guard if you had managed to master some type of open guard. So the 2 that we looked at were the De La Riva, if you remember, and this is one of the videos we showed, a really quick example of how he establishes from that standing position, the De La Riva guard, opens the legs, grabs the foot, pushes the opponent away, and then wraps that leg around, and he creates that tension with the opponent, which you may or may not have remembered. And also we looked at the X guard, and this is a quick example of how he gets to what he calls the standard X guard. As you can see, slightly different where he has the foot over the shoulder and he's established that X with his legs, one high and one behind the knee to control the opponent. Now, the detail of these, you know, is not really important to cover in this lesson. It's more the concept. And what the concept is for me is that the De La Riva is all about building that tension and building that pressure. And the X guard is all about getting under your opponent. But holistically, above it all, what we're looking at is what is your open guard game? Are you holding that closed guard for dear life, or do you have something that you can transition to? And the takeaway for me for lesson 1 is when it comes to De La Riva, I need to practice and I want to practice the transition to the position. And then from the De La Riva, I want to learn more and more and more to build on this game. Same with the X guard. What I would like to do is practice transitioning to the X guard, but also X guard is almost like a multiplier. Single leg X, reverse X, backside. There's so many different X guards into it, and they're all branches. And the way I like to think of BJJ is that your foundations are like the trunk of the tree. your guard, your mount, your side control, that's your chunk. And then let's say your mount is a branch that comes off, and off the branch, you've got armbar, you've got kimura, you've got choke. And these are the branches, and eventually the leads, which are the submissions that base off, build off the base of that tree. Well, I look at this and I'm like, my De La Riva branch is not very big and it's not very strong and it hasn't got that many leaves. So I want to grow that branch, and I want to grow the X-Guard branch, and more so the X-Guard. I want that to have branches upon branches of different types of X-Guards coming off it. So first on my list, boom, how's my open guard? How's my De La Riva? How's my X-Guard? Okay, so that was the first lesson. Now, the second lesson, you may or may not remember, was this beautiful thing called the deep half guard. All right, this was a really, really cool session because for me, I had heard of the deep half. A black belt I trained with in Afghanistan, were kind of talking about it and giving someone, a once over on what deep half is, but I never realized what it was and its potential. And what I definitely didn't realize was that people would utilize deep half guard as their go-to guard. As such, deep half guard is a branch in of itself that you can develop an entire game based off that deep half. So again, by way of revision, this is a very simple entry into the deep half. As you can see, all right, let's go a little further. He gets under his opponent. Opponent's leg is between his leg. His arm is underneath that single leg, and his head is on the opponent's lap. Now, this doesn't seem like you have much control over it, but I have happened to have the opportunity to train with someone since we've done this deep half guard lesson. I established deep half guard, and what surprised me was just like, oh my God, I absolutely control this guy's balance right now. I'm in control of where he goes, which really surprised me because I didn't think I'd have that much control from the bottom. And this deep half was something that sort of showed us it. And you may not remember this video, and these are just the masters at what they're doing from the deep half. So I'll let this play when we finish on the deep half. It was a really interesting session because this deep half one really opened my eyes to the world of deep half guard. Again, my branch for deep half guard is like just a tiny little branch growing off. It's not developed yet, and I want it to be good, and I want to build on it because I use half guard a lot. I reach for the underhook for half guard a lot, but I don't really go for the deep half a lot. That's going to change. It's on my to-do list. Interestingly, a fight recently in Flow Grappling, I think it was the Gabby Garcia fight. And Gabby Garcia was getting beaten, and then she established a deep half. And of the fight, it was probably the most excited I got because we had done this session. I was like, oh my God, she's got deep half. What's she going to do? Where's her hook? Where's her arm? And I found myself, I was getting really, really into this concept of deep half. So, a lot more to be explored by myself and hopefully you guys as well. So what am I going to work on with deep half? What can you work on to deep half? Well, there's the entries from deep half. A lot of people practice when they finally open that guard from a closed guard to an open guard. They eventually get comfortable with going half guard. And I think the next step is getting comfortable with going deep half. Do you choose to go to deep half like the videos that are being shown now? Or is it something you go to as a contingency? That's something I still need to work out. But once you are in deep half, a bit of revision, the two things we're working on is not only the entry, but your foot positions. You can have your foot under, over, and there's different angles how you can get the foot under. And then the sweeps. There's a sweep forward, a sweep backwards, and there's a way to get out the back door from the deep half as well. So that was the deep half lesson. That was a lot of fun. And I really opened my eyes to this concept of deep half and what it can and can't do. Okay, lesson 3, the knee ride. All right, I'll let this play through while I talk. So I really enjoyed lesson 3, the knee ride, because it was the first of several sessions that we will go on to do where I thought, knee ride, I am an expert on knee ride. I know knee ride. I've been doing knee ride for almost 2 decades. I know everything there is to know about knee ride. And it was the first session that I was extremely humbled after doing the research and going, oh, wow, I didn't realize how little I knew about knee ride. So some of the things that we talked about were really conceptual, right? And the physics of how to do the knee ride, that comes, you want to have that knee there. You don't want that straight angle. You want the shin across. You want the foot to hook. You want some sort of top control. That comes and you can learn that. But to me, it's the concepts that are interesting. And the first concept that's talked about in this video is what you use the knee ride for. And what he is saying is, as a smaller guy, he uses the knee ride to open his opponent up. He gets the side control. His opponent will go into a really tight little crab position, lock everything in, but then he'll go to knee ride, and there's that moment of clarity where his opponent thinks, oh, I have an advantage. I force my opponent to relieve pressure off me. I'm going to now move a little bit. And that's what he's waiting for. He's waiting for the openings to then start getting some submission. So going to the side control, getting to that knee right, adjusting, that's a lot of cool stuff there. The second aspect of the knee ride that we discussed, you may or may not remember this video, is that the knee ride is not a pinning position, different to what I had learned the knee ride was. The knee ride is a movement position. And as you can see, when this young lady is talking about knee ride, she talks about it as it's a position to move. And you saw the drill that she did before, is she hooks that hip, she establishes that knee on top, and when the opponent moves, she moves with the opponent as well. Because in this context, she's talking MMA, she's moving to maintain control of the opponent and to continue the strikes that she needs to, or look for those submissions. So not a pinning position, it's actually a movement position that you need to flow with your opponent. Really, really cool stuff. Really opened my eyes to a technique that I thought, I'd mastered, but I'd only learned just a tiny little bit. So the takeaways for me for the knee ride were not so much about the technicalities of the knee ride, which I pretty much had. It was, as an instructor, how do I teach the knee ride better? And if you're not instructing, this is for you as well, because what else can you learn about the knee ride? I think we all came to the conclusion after this one is that the knee ride needs to be taught specifically in detail. And we need to establish the understanding of not only how to get the knee ride, but the concepts of why you would want to use the knee ride. And the second point is that the videos that we went through that night, there was drills and drills and drills, video after video after video of how to practice the different types of knee ride transitions, side control knee ride, movement to knee ride, et cetera, et cetera. Those drills need to be practiced. We need to be better at knee ride, although we think we're amazing at it. Okay, lesson number 4. Lesson number 4 was another humbling lesson, and this was how to maintain the mount, all right? Again, I can maintain the mount with the best of them. So I thought, you just put your arms out wide, you make yourself heavy, you put as much weight as you can, and you hold your opponent there. What really didn't click to me was I don't really do mount much because a lot of people get out of my mount. They're either very strong and push me off, or they're a lot smaller than me and they can find the holes in my mount and they can get out of it. So again, during this session of the mount maintenance, you remember that we started looking at all the different ways to hold the mount, and it was another epiphany moment, just like with the knee ride, that the mount, again, is not a pinning position. Completely changed the way I thought of mount. I thought mount was about being heavy, holding your opponent down and just not letting them move. What we're seeing now is mount in 2021 is all about maintaining the position and being flexible to go to different types of mount. So if your opponent starts to turn, as you can see Damien Meyer here, he's going to a side mount or a complex mount or a different type of mount, not just a technical mount, sorry, not just trying to hold the same mount position based off your opponent. So again, it's not a pinning position, it's a movement position. So you need to be able to flow, you need to understand where your opponent is moving, and you need to be able to transition. And this is, when I went back to the notes, we talked a lot about not only the maintenance of mount, but how to switch to a technical mount, also known as a side mount, and what we'll go on to later, which is the S mount, which is what we spoke about in one of the more recent lessons. So what was the takeaway from the mount maintenance lesson? Well, I started asking myself, what is my mount game? Why don't I go to mount that often? And the reason was because I was like, I don't want to just pin people. I want to do submissions, and my submission game from the mount wasn't that good. So I need to work on it. How do I maintain the mount? I like to be as solid as a rock, but that's why I lose it all the time. So how do you maintain the mount? Are you solid as a rock on top of your opponent? Are you able to flow and move whilst maintaining that pressure and pushing gravity against your opponent, moving like water? All right, very yin and yang. And also, how many different types of mount do you know? I know side mount, which is a technical mount. I know the S mount. I know how to transition the two, but what other mounts are there that I'm not learning? A reverse mount, something else that maybe that we could be practicing. Do I know all the mounts? Are the mounts on my tree as fully developed as they can be? And I would suspect the answer is no. So again, this was the last two were really humbling for me. I thought I knew everything about knee ride. I thought I knew everything about mount. So much more to discuss. Okay. Almost at the end, lesson 5. You remember the lasso guard. So Trav and I spoke about lasso guard. We talked about this guy that had done lasso on us and we weren't able to defeat it. And so what we wanted to do was really go into it. And we looked at what is lasso guard, how do you use it? This was really probably one of the only lessons where we looked at one specific technique, and it didn't have many concepts. It was just, hey, this is how to be really technically good at this one technique. Now, I train with a guy that does a lot of lasso guard, always gets me in lasso guard, and I can tell you, I'm a lot stronger than him, but once they get it in and they're able to get themselves on the side, like you can see the instructor is doing on the screen now, it is an incredibly powerful position. All right. And there's a lot of detail in it. I would say it is very much a senior white belt, but you got to know lasso guard before you got to go to blue belt, in my opinion, because it is one of the fundamentals. But what is the takeaway from the lasso guard episode? It's that, again, looking at that tree, do you have a lasso guard? Do you even know what a lasso guard is? Do you know what to do if someone has a lasso guard on you? And to me, lasso guard was just one of those things where I just saw a hole in my belt. I'm using a Batman utility belt analogy now, right? Or a metaphor. It's a hole in my belt where I have so many different types of guards, but my lasso guard is fairly shallow. I want to build that part of my utility belt. So lasso guard, I'm good at transitioning to it, but I'm not great at the details, being on your side, putting the pressure. And also for those that are good at lasso guard, you'd remember that we spoke about lasso mixed with De La Riva, lasso mixed with X guard. The guys that are using lasso are mixing it with other types of guards. And I am nowhere near there yet. So that is something that I want to practice. It goes on my list. I'm taking it back to the dojo with me, lasso guard, and playing around with the other variants. So that's lasso guard. Okay. All right, lesson 6, 2 more to go. So you remember in lesson 6, we talked about maintaining side control. A humbling lesson, a really interesting lesson. And it was really good to sort of go through this lesson and really eye-opening for me, because unlike the knee ride, which I use, but not that often, unlike the mount, which I use, but not that often, side control is my jam. I use side control all the time. It's where I'm most comfortable from. I've submitted black belts and everyone from side control, I do side control. But going through this research for this lesson, again, opened my eyes to, I may be good at side control, my own opinion, but I could be so much better if I just took one step backwards. I could really take those 2, maybe even 3 steps forward with my side control game. And one of the really good takeaways comes from the jiu-jitsu video that we're watching now. And you can see the 3 words written on the screen: hips, shoulders, neck. And you might remember those are the 3 catchphrases that he uses when it comes to side control. If you really want to control someone from the side, how are you controlling their hips? Many, many different ways to do it. How are you controlling their shoulders? Many, many different ways to do it. How are you controlling their neck? Many different ways of doing it, right? But it's the combination of these 3 that is pitting someone in side control. I don't do that consciously. I might do it subconsciously, but what I'm doing now, what I'm thinking now is, if I approach my side control consciously thinking about hip, shoulder, neck, then my side control is just going to go to a totally new level. And this is really exciting for me, because I've got a good side control, but what could my side control be now that I've got this blueprint of hip, shoulder, neck? So I'm really, really excited by that. And for those that I don't have the video up, but may or may not remember the Keenan video that came from this one, where he controlled the top shoulder, controlled the neck by going under, but then reached under the back and grabbed the opposite lapel to hold the opponent there. I tried it when I was rolling the other day, couldn't quite get it, but I reckon that's going to be the next level. And as he said, if you really want to hold side control, you're reaching under the back and grabbing that lapel to pin their hips from turning away. Amazing, amazing stuff. And for the blue belts and beyond, if you're not playing with that, you need to play with it. So the takeaway from lesson 6, hip, shoulder, neck. But most importantly, these videos that I showed you during lesson 6 were just so many different drills to practice that side control. Now, here's how I run a lesson. I say, we're going to practice side control. Everyone get into side control. Try to hold it as long as you can. Set a timer, rotate. That's a good basic stuff. What I'm going to do now is bring some tools. All right, you've tried that drill. You're not very good at holding side control. Here are some tools on how to use it better. Not just the fundamentals, but a couple of actual movement drills that we can practice. And I think the entire gym's side control is going to go up from there. So that was lesson 6, side control. Okay, second last. Lesson 7, being inside the closed guard. Not that long ago, we spoke about being inside the closed guard, and it was a very conceptual lesson. And this is really to address a bit of a bugbear of mine, and that is the lessons that I teach and the beginners that I train with. The one thing I always say to them is, when you're in someone's guard, posture, 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 posture. And this video really helped me explain why you need that posture, 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 right? And then the John Danaher sort of introduction to what is the pass that everyone's doing. They are doing a standing closed guard break to a pass, which is what he's showing now. So really, this was a twofold lesson, being in someone's closed guard. Foundationally, for the guys that are still starting off, all about making sure you maintain that posture, 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 posture. You understand where your arms are, you understand where your balance point is, and you understand where your hips are. You will be able to maintain yourself in someone's closed guard. But if you're down, crunched forward, where that person wants you in their closed guard, you're in their territory. You got no right to be there. They will tip you, and they will sweep you, and they will submit you. For the higher belts, this was all about like, hey, I know like a handful of different ways of breaking guard, but after this one, I'm being told by the top level guys that all the ones I know are really cute, but at high level jiu-jitsu, they don't work because everyone knows how to counter them. The standing one that John Danaher is showing is the one, and that is one that I know a couple of standing ones, but I don't know this standing one specifically. I want to learn it. I want to put it in my repertoire. I want that to be a game that I use for breaking guard. So that's something I'm taking away. Okay, last one, lesson number 8 was a question, and it was all it was all about the S mount. All right. And all we did here was we added to the mount maintenance conversation. We learned the subtle difference between an S mount and a side mount / technical mount. And you can see the difference now. He's about to establish an S mount. He pushes those arms forward. He's opened up his shoulder. He's going to slide one knee under the shoulder, and then under the other shoulder, he's going to bring his leg around and establish that S position. Very different to a side mount, but it relates back to lesson 4, the maintenance of mount. And to me, it's just another tool within that mount that mount game. What can you do from the mount? What do you do when your opponent moves? And what this lesson provided for me was S mount was something that I'd learned to get an arm bar, but it's something I need to learn to do much, much more. And again, I recently had an opportunity to do a bit of training, and I was popping out, punching out S mounts left, right, and center. So something that's certainly there for everyone to talk about. Okay, let me just stop sharing this, and then let me finish up. Oh, there we go, stop sharing. Okay, so just to finish up, and then I'm going to throw around I'll throw to Trav for some comments, and then we can just sort of throw around for any comments or whatnot. But by way of wrapping up by the 3 R's, recapping, revising, and reflection, I can tell you doing 9 weeks now of virtual BJJ has hit all of these for me. I've really looked at different techniques. I've reflected on my own game, and I've really captured what I want to bring back into it. And I kind of got 3 points I want to finish off on. What I've learned is that the world is a limitless amount of different types and styles of BJJ. And the type and style of BJJ that you develop is based on you, based on your fitness, your body shape, your education, your gym, your influences, your mentors. You will develop the way that you do BJJ. The way Trav does BJJ versus the way I do it, really, they're worlds apart. We do very different BJJ. Fundamentals are the same, but because he's different to me in every way, shape, or form, we do different things, right? And that's why it's such a great sport that you can combat that together with people. But what I've learned from here is that the world is so full of richness that you should never plateau. You should never burn out, because you will never run out of things to learn. And instead of constantly being on the search for what's new, what's sexy, what I've really been really proud about the last 9 weeks is going back and looking at, okay, what is foundational? What should I know? And what don't I know? And I've got you guys to thank to that because, we're a foundational class, we're learning fundamentals. And I've learned more about BJJ in the last 9 weeks than, to be honest, probably the 9 weeks before that, because I was forced to really look at what I did and reflect on it. So I think it's very powerful. The second thing is, I've learned is don't take anything for granted. I'm extremely confident in a lot of my BJJ, not very confident at all in the vast majority of it. But what's been humbling, as I said, is the stuff that I'm extremely confident about has been blown out of the water during some of these sessions. My side control, for example, super confident in it. Then I realized, yeah, it's okay, but it's not where it needs to be. Mount is not mount. Side control is not side control. And I still remember, John Will says this when he promotes black belts, is that now you need to start from the start. You need to go back and look at everything you have done previously and realize that you need to learn again. And I mean, how true is that? Not a black belt level, but just going back and reflecting on some of that stuff here. You know, I now don't take anything for granted, and I now don't want to just go to the gym and roll. I want to go to the gym and start plugging these holes, because to me, they're holes in my games that I need to fix. You know, like a house that's being built, fix the foundations before you start adding the pretty stuff. And I think the final thing is, and I would applaud Trav, and I especially applaud you guys, especially you, Greg and Kylie, and especially Dane as well, for coming to these sessions, because I think the secret is you don't ever stop. Now, I have not trained for 3 months, rightio. I trained the other day with someone, and I can tell you it wasn't as clumsy as I thought it was going to be. I had things I wanted to practice. My body was sort of just muscle memory back into what it knew, but it wasn't like I had done nothing, because I've been thinking about BJJ. I've been watching BJJ. I've been talking about BJJ. I've been physically keeping up the exercise. And, you know, it may not be as good as training consistently, you know, but when you are unable to, be it for a pandemic or be it for work reasons, I think you can still maintain that momentum. And I think we, you know, the small group and those that watch the videos in their own time, I think the momentum is there. And I think that when you go back to the gym and we start training again, you will find that you're thirsty to learn new things. You're thirsty to remember you haven't forgotten anything, but then your journey just sort of continues. And hopefully, you know, instead of starting from scratch and learning to crawl and then walk and then run, you're at least starting at walk, or hopefully you're starting at run when we get back to the gym. And that's really what I've gotten out of the last 9 weeks. And I've got all of you all to thank for that. All right. Well, that is that. That is my passionate ending to this great online session. I'm going to throw open to Trav and anyone else who would like to say anything, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, really, that's a really good recap there, young fella. Richie, well done. Thank you for the 8 weeks. You put a lot of thought into it, and you delivered, mate. So well done. You've given us a lot of things to think about, which is excellent. John Will does say that. He says, you hit black belt, go back. Now, this is what I did, because I'd heard that so many times, because I've had John at my school so many times, been down to Melbourne so many times, and he's a friend. And so I do it every belt. So I'll go back, and you should all go back, because I'll tell you, a blue belt doing white belt techniques will be different. And then at purple belt, you'll go, oh, I can do this now. And then at brown belt, you'll go, oh, I can add this. And then at black belt, you're like, oh, okay, I've got all these things. Rather than wait to black belt to review, just review beforehand. So that's a little tip. Yeah, I've got just a few points, but I should have had a list here and wrote them down as you were saying them, Richie. But when you do half guard and deep half guard, they're both related. I'm in the stables with some crazy horses at the moment. They're all getting fed. So they're related. Now, here's the scoop that I've learned about deep half guard and half guard, because I've been studying them in detail. They're so similar not similar in what you're doing, but what you can do from the positions are so similar. So you can go out the back door, you can rock and roll them both ways, and you can, so in other words, you can unbalance left, you can unbalance right, you can go out the back door, you can do a double leg, all from a deep half guard and all from a half guard. So so in a way, it's not much of an extension to go deep half guard. It's not a big leap. It's like, oh, okay, this makes a bit of sense, because the movement's really similar. And I did that in the classes with Greg and Kylie, Ben and Chelsea, and we experimented with that. And so that was pretty good. Yeah, so that they're related and a little bit different, but they're still related. The open guard stuff, fascinating, because open guard, I used to force open guard, i.e. I'd open my legs, oh, got to get De La Riva, and I put my foot in the position. But with open guard, there's a bit of give and take with you and your opponent, in a sense that the opponent will do something and your foot falls into De La Riva. And so I did 6 months on De La Riva, and I went in this comp, I still remember it, and I deliberately went De La Riva, got to De La Riva, and then I was like trying to do all the De La Riva stuff, and the guy knew the counters, and it was just me and De La Riva and him just looking at me. And but what I took away from that, and also a review this time with Richie, is your De La Riva, your open guards, you flow through them a bit. Now some people get stuck on them and go, okay, I'm going to be a lasso guard player, or I'm going to be, knee up in the elbow player and all that. That's fine. But what I'm finding is I just mentally go, oh, De La Riva's not there anymore. I'll move to this. And I feel that that's a bit of a theme. I feel that when Richie talked about side control, when he talked about mount, when he talked about knee ride, it wasn't about hold, pin, weight. It was about, okay, I ride this technique and then I move to something else. And he said that, that's how it's progressing. And I think that's really is how it's progressing. The ability to know when to move to something else when you're losing it, which is really good. So I'll finish up there. But
I was going to say, Trav, that's one thing. You go to different gyms around Australia, and you can feel the tempo and sort of what that gym has focused on. I've been to half guard gyms and I've been to lasso guard gyms, and I think that's one of the benefits of Redback is like it is a real amalgamation of what people want to focus on. You go there and you roll and you're like, oh, I don't really know, except for leg locks. I think clearly leg locks are very, very big at Redback. But I really like how it's like a blank slate. It's like you will get better at whatever you want to focus on, or focus on a lot of things. But you're totally right. If I ever become the BJJ player that's like, I just do De La Riva, then I think you'll plateau really quickly. I want to be the guy that, like you said, is what are you going to do when you roll with Trav? Well, I don't know. It depends what he does, and I'll just be able to sort of do whatever, react to how he reacts. So I think that's aspirational.
Yeah. And I that's a really interesting point, because I don't go, oh, I'm rolling Richie now, what am I going to do? Or Tristan. I don't even have that thought. It's, oh, I'm just going to, I think my internet's still on?
No, we got you.
Yeah. I just feel that it is that fluid situation. But I must admit, probably a few years ago, I probably did have sort of, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Whereas now I don't. And I haven't had that for a while, actually. I just have a roll. Even in competition, we talk about a game plan. Yeah, I don't want to get taken down, no way. And I want to take them down. But after that, it really becomes after HR, anything can happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to finish up. I just once again want to reiterate and say to Richie, great job. Now, we're going to be in on Friday and Saturday at some stage, which is good. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there.
It's going to be great. All right, let's go. Any save rounds from the Greg, Kylie, Ben, Chelsea gang?
Not a huge amount from us, but just want to say thanks to you, Richie, and Travis for putting these on, obviously. It's kind of funny when you talk about how this is all focusing on the fundamentals and not the sexy stuff, but for us, we've only got like 6 months training in BJJ, it's like this is the sexy stuff, some of it, because we haven't done S mount, we haven't done X guard or anything like that. So it's all stuff that's percolating, waiting for us to get back on the mats.
Yeah, for sure. And the beauty of this style is that these recordings are here forever, right? So this may not be something that you are able to digest 100% now, but maybe in a couple months, maybe in 3 months, maybe in a year's time, it's here for when you're ready for it. But very, very appreciative of you guys being here every week. It's always nice having someone to sort of present to, and you guys being reliably here has made it worthwhile. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And we bought our own mats, and we have been practicing and just experimenting with some of these concepts and that sort of thing. I don't know yet whether it's a measurable improvement in our game, so to speak, but we'll see.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much. Dane, what do you got for us, buddy? Good to see you.
Hey, mates. Yeah, thanks very much for putting these on for us over the past, what's it been now, 2 months now, nearly 2.5 months. I think they've been really good. They've been really good for me to gain a much better understanding of some of the kind of the fundamentals. Like I really enjoyed probably my favorite session was the one on maintaining side control. That one was really good for me. The one on knee ride and mounts. Walked away from those with a different way of thinking about knee ride and mount. As in, I sort of previously thought of those as being kind of the pinning or sort of controlling positions, whereas it seems like they're more kind of the expectations to be more sort of fluid or sort of transition from there to sort of somewhere else. So that was really good. I think it's kind of reminded me of the need to be a little bit more disciplined and not be sort of my attention to be kind of distracted by the sexy stuff like this, sort of stuff that I come across on Instagram or stuff that's sort of too flashy, and really kind of revisit the kind of the subcomponents of the fundamentals, whether it be side control or whether it be S mount or whatever it may be. And I think just in general, it's been good to kind of stave off the rust. Like I think obviously this is not ideal, but I think when we get back in the gym, because we've been talking the language, we've been talking through the principles and watching the content which Tristan's been talking through. I think we'll be in a much better spot than the next person who's just hasn't sort of done anything in this space for 2 or 3 months. Yeah,
can I add to that? I just want to add to that because I'm a big believer in this. In fact, I've proven it, right? And I've run some experiments. Yes, there's a physicality. Most definitely there's a physicality. And we all know that. But visualization, thinking about it, like I've trained, I feel I've trained. Now, I'll go on the mat and I think I've improved my fitness in other areas, but my mat fitness will be lagging, right? So I know that after a couple of rolls, I'll be, probably puffing, but my cardio is good. But my visualization of technique and my study, because when I study it, I sit there and I do what Einstein did when he talks about, traveling at the speed of light. Imagine you're at the speed of light. Shut your eyes. Now, I've watched those shows and I read that book, and maybe it's bullshit. Maybe he didn't say that, but I visualize doing those techniques. So when Richie's talking about it and we're watching something, I draw back to my experience of doing it. So I know in the past, because, as an instructor, if you're bringing in a concept, you often don't get to do it as many times as the student doing it. And so I may have done it a few times and then I've got to do it for real. And sometimes I've been shown something just before a competition and gone out and done it in the competition simply because I've visualized and gone, oh, I can use that. One of them was the roll under sweep. Danny Weir showed it to me and I went out and I got this. He said, oh, if you get a barrel chested person, do a roll under sweep. And I went, holy shit, got a barrel chested person. I'm going to do a roll under. And it worked. So I'd only done it. I'd done it once on Danny, and visually I'd thought about it a few times as I was going out to do it. So I really believe in this sort of thing, and I really believe that it will, it won't be the same as we've rolled, but who knows? But BJJ is more than just physical; it's mental as well. So it's how we think. So I'm curious to see how we'll come back from this. But last time we came back fine, didn't we? I thought we did.
Yeah,
we all came in and rolled, and I didn't feel rusty at all.
The
This has been longer though.
No, the visualization is so key. If I can look when I in my recent deployment, right, I was with some very highly trained American Special Forces guys, day in and day out, and I'll tell you one story. There was a guy in the gym. There was this kind of prison gym, and we're there working out, and he would do a set, and it wasn't, he was just doing his stuff in his PT clothes, and then he'd run to the corner, and he had a pistol and he had a rifle, and then he'd pick up his pistol belt, put his pistol belt on and his rifle, and then between sets, he'd practice his shooting drills and just practice, and then and then go back and do more sets, and then run back. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm visualizing my shooting drills. I'm visualizing these drills, and he was combining the physical with the mental. And you know, there's Tiger Woods. You know, every time he would take a shot, it was all for him was all about the visualization of his swing and the ball travel. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with regards to the visualization, and I felt it when the first roll I had after the last lockdown was with Tristan, and it was like on. We were like, it was almost like we had both had our own fight camps, and we're like, all right, let's see what we've learned while we've been away, and we went so hard on each other. But it didn't feel like, you know, we'd step backwards. It was like, I've got some new stuff to show you, you know, here we go. And we just went for it. So I think, I think the people that are stuck with this, you're going to really pay the benefits of, see the benefits.
Also, the other one about visualization is it's still a skill you've got to practice. So here's the scoop. For the last 3 months or 2.5 months, we've been practicing it. Now, others will probably got videos out or done other things. I'm not saying, I'm just pointing out that by going through this process, by practicing visualization, you get better at it. So like I'm at the point where I actually put Danaher on, I've got all his stuff and I can listen to it in the car and not even watch the thing. I can just listen to what he's doing and visualize the movement. I can put any of those people on and then that's my training session. I get to work in the morning and I've had a session. And then I obviously, you know, a mental session, and then I can't do it. What I found is I can't do it on the way home. The road and the concentration required I'm properly driving, but it's just a different. I'm tired from the day, whereas in the morning I'm fresh and I can just have that thing going on in my brain. But anyway, yeah, no, good. Oh, I like that.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks Trav for maintaining this and keeping the ship afloat, and hopefully we're back to normal on Friday night. So I'll see you all there. I'll see you all on Saturday. Ease back into training. Don't go flat chat. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see you all. It's going to be great. And there'll be the last chance. I know you probably see there's a lot of packing boxes behind me. So this is my last week in Canberra. So looking forward to a few rolls with you all, and then that'll be the end.
You will get one roll with everyone.
Yeah, yes. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
All right, mate. Catch you later.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks again. See you, mate.
Thanks, Richard.
Bye.